welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I am joined by the man in the window himself, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben. How you doing?
Doing good. How the devil are you doing? Yes, it's us again.
Yeah, your podcast feeds everybody. If you subscribe to this podcast, which you absolutely should, um, bloody awash with Ben Errington, Andy Conduit Turner, and friends content this week because we have been
Almost to the
busy
point
wee boys.
where, almost to the point where I'm like, how are we going to squeeze in doing regular episodes? But we're said we're doing regular episodes, so we got to do it. We're committed to the calls.
Yeah, we don't scrimp just because we've got other things going on, everyone. We will flag up top. We're going to keep this one efficient if we can because we're recording round the clock right now with interviews and everything. I mean, Ben hit it in the news, but we have a very exciting event which unfolded quickly. Life came at us fast yesterday.
Life always comes at you fast, but what sets us apart, I would say, is how we think on our feet, and we're ready for anything going down. So yesterday we conducted an interview with the filmmaker, the director of Thorns, which is showing at Fright Fest this week. So obviously, yeah, we've been doing Fright Fest bonus content all over the place, and we're attending the event at the end of this week. We're going to be there for the whole thing, chatting to everybody, talking to everybody. Come say hi if you're there, of course. But yeah, we discussed with Douglas Schulz. We discussed Thorns, and we also had another special guest on that bonus episode. It was Doug Bradley himself, Pinhead himself, Hellraiser star and horror royalty, Doug Bradley. And we didn't even necessarily know he was going to be on that particular call
Until about an hour before it happened.
until about an hour before it happened. Yeah, for some reason, I'd made the silly assumption. Never make an assumption. That's right, isn't it?
That's
Because it
right.
makes
You
an ass
mustn't.
out of you and me.
That's right. But they didn't know that because the people who we'd assumed that, and then we could only make one out of ourselves.
Exactly. There we go. And Doug Bradley attended, and that episode is already on your feeds because that's how fast we're firing them out. Yeah, and what a pleasure it was to speak to a man of great horror stature. Get some insight. We talk about his in introduction to the genre, his favorites in the genre, and religion and horror together,
Yeah,
and how
very for a 30
juxtaposing
minute
forces.
30-minute conversation, and someone of that magnitude in the horror world come in to join and chat to little old us about it. I feel like, Ben, I should say, and now for our Peeping Tom episode, Robert England's joining us. Just invite him into the call, but he's not. We haven't made that arrangement. That's fine. It's just me and you today.
Yeah, I feel like we deal with it, I mean, it's pretty intense, and I'm not the type to always get starstruck. I can be a bit like smiley, I think, like, oh yeah, yeah, you're a legend, I like it. But I feel like if anyone jumped into this call right now, I'd think on my feet. I'd deal with it. We'd ask hard-hitting questions. We'd ask for hot takes, and at the end of the day, we'd come away with fantastic horror content.
Yeah, exactly. This is the professional experience you guys have signed up for, everybody. So yeah, but it's been
Yes, it
very
is.
exciting. Genuinely, it's super exciting. We've covered loads of interesting things. We've got another couple of interviews to wrap up before we hit the road. But
Yeah. And
Fright
then
Fest has been
next,
good to us this year.
it sure has. We've seen a lot of the films already, but we're looking forward to seeing a lot of the Fright Fest movies in London on the main screen. We've got Discovery tickets sorted as well. We're going to be on the media wall chatting to people, and it's going to be a different episode for next week. So rather than us being on Zoom chatting to each other, which is lovely, it's always a pleasure. Um, but we're going to do something different where we kind of, well, we're not entirely sure how it's going to go, but we're going to try our very best to podcast on the move, which means we're going to be doing like intros to like the day, chatting to people at the event, chatting to filmmakers at the event, and then doing like sort of reaction to films we've seen stuff as well. And then we're going to chop all that together, fire it out as one big mega Fright Fest episode. I mean, there will be other bite size or smaller pieces of Fright Fest content over the weekend from us as well. But after the event, it'll be a big Sexy podcast episode.
Yeah,
Sexy? That's correct.
if this one's turned out short, don't worry. You're probably getting about 8 hours of content next week, everybody. So strap in.
Exactly, that's true. Because not just us, obviously, our other co-host Luke Condor
He'll
will
be
be there.
there.
Original co-host, he'll be there. I'm sure he'll have plenty to say. And then of course, people who have guested on the show are going to be attending. I don't want to list too many names because I don't want to just assume. Don't want to do that again. That people are going to be there. I know John Crinnan will be there. Friend of the show, former guest. Janine Pipe, friend of the show, former guest. And then loads of other people. Becky from like 2 weeks ago is going to be on our Talk to Me episode. She's going to be there as well. So I'm sure we're going to grab people and ask for their thoughts on the films they've been watching and just take it all in because we've never attended this event before.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm so excited. I'm even scheduled straight after work tonight, Ben. I'm going to be off to get a haircut. So I'm looking my best in case I'm in front of the camera at any point.
Off to get your ears lowered.
Yeah, off to get a haircut. Might even spring for a beard trim. What a time.
Oh wow. Yeah. I'll make sure I'm looking as fresh as possible. As fresh as can be. I've already looked in the wardrobe and gone, which horror movie t-shirt am I gonna wear? Because it's gotta be that, right? I can't scrimp on that.
You imagine that you get up and there's something in the wash. Real life horrors. There's no time. Won't be dry. It'll go moldy in your bag.
That's probably gonna happen, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, come on, get your laundry done tonight. Get it on the line. Anyway, we're going quick. What's the what?
We're going.
We not really much to share in the what we've been watching because it's been for me, Ben. I don't know about you, exclusively Fright Fest content, wall to wall. Apart from the
Fright
film
Fest. Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of horror news, that's why there isn't too much. The horror news is that we're attending Fright Fest, and the other horror news is that our interviews are live. So obviously, the last few interviews we've done, Andy interviewed the Werewolf Santa director, earlier this week. Errol Hales, that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I interviewed the Paradolia director, Aaron Truss, former guest, and that's on the feed as well. I've just conducted an interview of Takeshi Kishida, director of My Mother's Eyes, so that will be live on the feeds probably from tomorrow, which is fascinating. His first Q&A in English as well, so an absolute honor to be able to conduct that. So exciting. In terms of horror news, pretty thin on the ground, but I am going to mention one thing because I found this quite fascinating and interesting. So obviously the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day was just a couple of days ago, and that is the day that the events of the movie took place on August the 18th, I think. 50 years ago since that happened. And if you that feels kind of crazy, but even in the Texas Chainsaw new movie that was on Netflix last year, they said 50 years since the events of that, Leatherface is still knocking about and he hadn't done a murder since. So that's kind of crazy. Time moves quickly when you're not murdering. But anyway, that game's out. I've not got it, but I've kind of been watching people play it. It is a bit like the Dead by Daylight scenario 4v1 thing, but something really weird, and this I thought I had to mention. AEW Wrestling had a Texas Chainsaw Massacre death match sponsored by the game. Sponsored by the game. It was between Jeff Hardy and Jeff Jarrett. It was very bloody. There was lots of blood involved.
Whack each other onto hooks, skin each other's faces off.
But listen to this, Andy. One thing you won't believe. Leatherface turned up.
I don't believe it.
There was like a belt. So there was an AEW belt, which was like Texas Chainsaw themed, which looks lovely, by the way. It's got Leatherface on it. It looks great. But as the match continued and sort of things were happening, it was kind of like a hardcore match, essentially, like with vague Texas Chainsaw Massacre theming. Leatherface showed up. Somebody in a full Leatherface costume, blue suit, ran down to the ring, swinging the chainsaw, and just like chased somebody off. But it was very camp, very over the top, very silly. But I think if you're a fan of that franchise in any way, you're gonna have to go and check this out and watch it, because with all the gimmicky hijinks to take place in wrestling matches over the years, when something like this happens, because there was like Army of the Dead did a promo match for WWE when that film came out on Netflix, and that was very similar.
One of the wrestlers was a robot.
The wrestlers,
inexplicably.
no, they didn't include that bit. There was just zombies around the ring, and it like almost like a lumberjack match. Um, but yeah, go and check out this Texas Chainsaw Death Match. I think there are highlights of it on 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 YouTube. I watched it and thoroughly enjoyed it. That I mean, that was all I was going to mention horror news wise. In terms of what we've been watching, yeah, it's pretty much exclusively Fright Fest films, so we don't really want to talk about them too much. I did watch the movie Vamp, just a little Fright Fest break, where I went, I'm just going to watch another horror film. So the 1986 Grace Jones starring vampire film. Have you seen this, Andy?
I have not. I saw you'd seen it though, and I added it to my list. I keep an eye on it.
Do you know what? It's all right. Story wise, bit weird. Didn't really know what was happening or why. But Grace Jones is great and actually pretty terrifying once she fully goes vampire. It's got the most 80s lighting ever seen on film, though. Everything is pink, like purple and green, no matter where they are. They're in a sewer, it's lit up in purple and green. They're
Like a
in their
turtle
backs
sewer.
like a turtle sewer. They're in a strip club, purple and green. Um, I think visually, like it's got some good stuff going on, but yeah, story wise, I was a bit like, don't really get it, but still, pretty good. I'd recommend it. I also watched, and this was an actual Fright Fest break. I watched a movie called No Hard Feelings, so like a comedy. So I want to say romantic comedy, but I don't know. It kind of like I kind of liked it because it avoids like genre tropes and like doesn't. It's not predictable in terms of a third act resolution where it goes. Obviously, the main character's going to fall in love
Oh, we love each
because
other
there's a
now, so
there's a bit of an age gap between the characters, and I thought that was kind of strange. That was kind of what made me feel like, as a 2023 R-rated comedy, it felt a bit odd. But there's a particular scene with Jennifer Lawrence, which is going to go down in cinema history. There is a nude fight scene
yeah.
where Jennifer Lawrence commits to a reverse, like a back suplex, fully naked, and the art she gets when she lands that suplex is superb. So go and check that out if you get a
Best
chance.
best in the business. Oh, I mean Jennifer Lawrence always good shout. She's turned her hand to many genres, including horror. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a big fan. Funny though, Ben, you've mentioned the real life horrors of age gap relationships. People don't tend to pull it up when it's Leonardo DiCaprio being grossly much older than his female co-star.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I mean, not all men, I guess. There are
Wait, is it
some.
always his co-star or is it just in real life? I thought in real life he's more like, if you're over 25, I got no interest in you. You've had too many
Allegedly. There you go. Disclaimer
allegedly.
now.
Add allegedly. Jennifer Lawrence did mention, so I don't know if you saw her Hot Ones interview where she's eating the chicken wings and
I
gradually
haven't.
getting hot. I think she was involved with Darren Aronofsky during the filming of Mother, which I guess you could say is like horror adjacent, isn't it? Kind of.
I've
It's a bit
never
of a weird
never
one.
seen Mother. I do like Darren Aronofsky because I like saying his name in the tune to Lady Gaga's Alejandro.
Aronofsky,
Darren
Darren.
Aronofsky, Darren Aronofsky.
That's it. That's much better. Yeah, that's much
There
better.
you go.
But she did admit in that interview, Jennifer Lawrence, that she didn't know what Mother was about and still doesn't understand it to this day. I don't know if she was just saying that for a laugh, but
It's about a
if
mother,
you
isn't it?
if you enjoy watching Hot Ones, which I sometimes do, I think the Jennifer Lawrence one is probably one of the best ones there is
Well,
because
check it out.
she seriously panics on her way through it. And yeah, after watching that film, I did realize. I think I knew already, but I did realize I'm in love with her. So let's. So you haven't watched anything else other than Flight Fest
Other than
things?
Fright Fest content and film of the week, Peeping Tom.
That may be the quickest we've ever got to say in film of the week on this podcast. So much so that I almost feel like slowing it down a bit, but I can't. I don't want to put the brakes on. We've got to keep going. Our content is a rolling stone. And Peeping Tom. And I told you before, every time I write Peeping Tom down, which has been a few times recently, type it, I mean, I write Peeing Tom, which is a totally different um movie, if you can
Yeah,
find it. You can
different
find it.
genre. I'm
So
sure there's a Peeing Tom if you look in the right place.
Peeping Tom, which is the film of the week, is a 1960 British psychological horror film directed by Michael Powell, starring Carl Boehm, Anna Massey, and Moira Shearer. The film revolves around a serial killer who murders women while using a portable film camera to record their dying expressions of terror. The dirty, rotten bastard. 7.6 on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, 95% critic score, 85% audience score, 4.0 on Letterboxd. Got some choice reviews for you here. Cassandra says, I bet Hitchcock wishes he made this. Came out in the same year as Psycho, didn't it?
Why?
That's me adding that. That's not, she didn't say that. I've added that. Todd says, a tripod blade is a pretty sweet weapon for a serial killer. I kind of agree with that. So he's giving it 4 stars. Sorry, Cassandra gave it 4.5 stars. I kind of agree with that, but I reckon I'd forget that I've got a tripod blade a few times. I'd be out and about doing actual filmmaking stuff and
You pierce your
forget.
foot with a spike.
I'll pierce my foot with a spike straight outside the dirty newsagents, which is where he spends a lot of his time. Alex Coleman says, a deeply disturbing character study that has an eerie way of blurring the lines between the silver screen and our reality. 4 stars. And Justin DeClue says, well, he's giving it 4.5 stars as well, which is good. This film is about vloggers. He didn't, it's not written in capitals. I don't know, I said it like that. Yeah, he's vlogging. So he's seriously vlogging before vlogging was ever popular. What are you filming this for? I mean, this could be a found footage film if you broke it down, couldn't it?
Peeping Tom, not only the first slasher movie or one of the first, but also the first vlogger, first live streamer. This is his
The
B
first
reel.
live streamer, the first vlogger. Yeah, he puts all his footage together in a snuff film used for his own pleasure. I've heard this compared to things like American Psycho as well, but of course a very, very different performance and character, you would say.
Arguably, Peeping Tom is a nicer man than American Psycho.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think you'd want either of them in your house, but nice man. And I mean the accents on show in this obviously is set in the UK, in London. The well-to-do, lovely British accents. Did you find yourself replicating them?
I mean, yeah,
What's
every
ever
time.
for?
Oh,
What are you,
yeah.
a snuff film? How peculiar.
Oh,
I mean, there's a lot of...
I like to understand what I'm watching, Peeping Tom, although it's not his name. His name is not Lewis,
Mark.
that's his last name, Mark. I like to know what I'm
Mark.
watching, Mark. Oh,
He's got
what a
a direct...
naughty boy. I hope you got spanked.
Yeah, she says that. She's the kind of... She watches a very disturbing film of his and then goes away and goes, yeah, he could be my boyfriend. I'll go on a date with him. Why not? Totally
Yeah,
fine.
we'll come to it. But where do we begin with Peeping Tom? I mean, I didn't recognize many of the actors from other things. I know that it really impacted the director's career because the critics of the time said, "Oh, mate, nasty, horrible film. You're a wrong 'un." But now has
Yeah.
been kind of critically reappraised, and people really appreciate
So
what it is because I found it was really well made.
it's really well made, yeah, and the pacing's great. Like, obviously, there's not much in terms of the way of gore. I mean, even though people get killed, you don't really see much of it. It was directed by Michael Powell. Just looking at a picture of him now, I'm pretty sure he was also the dad in the movie. I know
Ozzy,
we see him out of focus, don't we, for a second?
back when
But
young
yes,
Carl is played by looks like the little old man that played Old Man Steptoe, doing his like mugging faces when he's getting
bloody hell.
when he gets woken up in the morning with his dad because I have a bloody lizard on your bed, mate.
It's a horrible way to wake up, to be fair. What is that? Some kind of lizard he's put on your bed? Yeah, that's right. He was doing experiments on me.
Just make a cup of tea, Dad. Put a bacon sandwich on. No,
I know what he's trying to do.
have a lizard.
He's trying to create a mutant like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's going, maybe if I put a lizard on my son's bed.
Either that, or
And
I imagine he's thinking, I tell you what, kid, he's asleep. He gets his video camera out. He goes, I'll chuck this lizard on his bed. He'll do something funny. Beadle will pay out.
Beedle.
Jeremy Beadle whackers £250 in 1960s money. £250 when full sex with a prostitute, sex worker, will cost you only £2.
Jesus.
Beadle's 250 quid would take you a
You
long
could go
way. Buy an
you go
island in
crazy
the Caribbean.
crazy at the brothel. Or if you want to buy a book of What does he buy a book of? Just naked pictures for a
They're,
fiver?
they're a fiver. They cost a book of softcore pornography from your local newsagents will cost you 2.5 sexes equivalent.
That's how they do it. They got the price listed on the wall. They go 2.5 sex for that, 1.5 sex. You could got me down to £4.10, and I'll throw in the Telegraph and the Times.
The
Hang
newspapers.
on a minute though. When I'm leaving, people are gonna know I've got a book of porn. Don't worry. I've got an
Educational
envelope here.
books.
got I've got an envelope here which says educational books diagonally across. I would, if I saw some of that, I'd know it was porn more so than if I actually saw the cover of what it was. I go,
This is
that's
the
porn
piece of this
100%.
is the piece of merch that I want to take away from this film. I want a manila envelope with educational books written on it,
Well,
so
you
I can
should
carry everywhere.
you should carry it. You should go to conventions with that as the most niche
Reference ever.
cosplay
Oh,
ever.
when we go to Thought Bubble later this year, maybe we'll put our comics and horror books into envelopes that say educational books that we'll hand them over to people in.
Do you ever get home and your parents make fun of you for coming home with comic books? They go, "Oh, grow up for God's sake." Then don't fear because we've got these manila envelopes for you. You dirty
Say
bastard.
educational books.
So obviously the main star is Carl Boehm as Mark Lewis. Anna Massey is Helen Stevens, who's like the I guess you would say like the love interest slash she's got a blind mum. Got a blind mum. Moira Shearer is Vivian, who's the one who does that annoying dance that goes on way too long.
Well, that entire musical number in the middle.
And then starts playing it again in the background. Oh, turn it in. Then obviously there is Maxine Audley as Mrs. Stevens, who is Helen Stevens' mum. There's some other sort of like bit part players. There's a random man who like knew Mark's dad at one point. The
Well,
bloke
the
who runs the news
psychiatrist
agent.
that's there, yeah.
Oh, the psychiatrist who sort of tells him stuff about that. Yeah, the bloke who runs the dirty news agents. It's a lovely news agents, but there's pictures of naked people on the walls. However, a child comes in at one point.
Oh, that guy, would be beside himself, wouldn't he? Just as he's been looking through not the porn that's on the walls, but the porn that was so extreme that the guy had to hand it to him in like a little sort of secret folder. Just as he's completing his purchase, the little bell to the shop goes, thinks, oh no, is it gonna be worse? Is it gonna what could
He
be
goes like,
worse? Is it gonna be the vicar? Is it gonna be like, the well-to-do woman from that? No, it's an actual kid. He's like, oh.
every time someone walks in, the man goes, "Oh, oh
Yeah.
no!"
And he's told
Someone's gonna
Carl to
come in
make him
upstairs.
made Carl to make told to make himself look busy, so he just stands in a corner looking vaguely at the newspapers like he's on
That's what you
standby.
got to do these days. That's what you got to do these days. Um, so yeah, obviously considered one of the first like slasher movies, psychological horror thriller film. He's a voyeur, I guess, but he takes it one step too far. And are we supposed to believe that it's because of the experiments his dad did to him that has made
Yeah,
him a little bit of a
if you
wrong'un?
get woke up in the morning and have lizards chucked on you enough times, it'll send anyone round the bend.
Yeah, I reckon I'd make sure the lizard was gradually bigger until it was like a Komodo dragon,
It's a pretty big lizard.
just to scare the shit out of him. Yeah, so that's obviously like the cast. There is anyone else I'm missing? Oh yeah, there's two women that he like takes photos of, I guess for their equivalent of OnlyFans back in 1960. Postcard in a phone box. I don't know. Including a woman with like a facial disfigurement.
She had
But
like a hair lip that's been
yeah, but
corrected, right?
Mark
And then when he turns around
absolutely
and
loves
sees
it.
that, but he yells, but he cream in his jeans when he turns around and look at it. He's like, oh, yeah, I'd love to.
As a voyeur, right? I mean, he's obviously experienced voyeur, but he's got no tact with it. He will stop and stare if he has to.
Yeah,
Um,
get yourself a pair of sunglasses, Mark. Come on.
yeah. So where does it start? Obviously, we see it's basically all from the Peeping Tom's point of view. We see everything through his camera's viewfinder.
A beautiful
Um,
Technicolor 60s street, right?
oh yeah, definitely. I kept thinking like, wow, it just must have been amazing to like wander around in London back in those days. I mean, maybe not the insides of the houses looked a bit naff, but
all
All the
brown,
exterior shot,
brown
all brown
curry house
everywhere.
wallpaper. Um, yeah, so it begins just in that beautiful lit London street where there is a sex worker hanging out. Well, we don't know she's a sex worker, but it's quickly revealed when the first line she has in the program is, "All right, £2."
All right, £2. Well, she might just be selling advice.
Yeah,
Uh,
psychiatric help. But unfortunately, that's not what it's not what she's able to dish out because we see it says in the synopsis here that he's covertly filming her with a camera, but
how
I
you
think
can't
I
be
think
covert back in the 1960, can you?
I think our standards for what is covert is has increased because he's got it sticking out of his jacket like a triple lens, like
Yeah.
winding. That sounds like it's ticking the whole time. It's like
Have you got a secret camera there? No. Sounds like a generator under your coat.
yeah, but he follows her upstairs. You see him throw some film boxes in the bin. It's all first person. I think this is where this gets the reputation of being one of the first things we consider a slasher movie. I think it's certainly one of the first cases of
But what's interesting
film.
about it is that as the fact that this film is from the point of view of said
Yeah,
slasher.
that's where I think that's what characterizes it as one of the first slasher movies, getting the things that we'd be familiar with from seeing Mike
Yeah.
Myers do it later, seeing a Jason get the first person view. Um, we get it here in Peeping Tom, one of the earliest examples, if not the earliest. I won't say the earliest because we'll get tweets saying, well, actually, in 1959 there was something called whatever comes
Peeing
before
Tom.
Peeping Tom. Yeah, just Peeping Tom.
Peeing Tom having a little wee. But yeah, obviously loads of things that are familiar with that. I mean, similar to like when we watched Cat People, which is the movie where
Luke Condell's favorite
allegedly
film.
Luke Condor's #1 A+ film. Allegedly, like the first jump scare, obviously with the hissing of the bus arriving when you think something scary is going to happen. The first jump scare, even in things that have clearly inspired decades of films that come after that, it still feels like these tropes are very like bedded in. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like this is the first time we've ever seen it. It feels like this is something that the filmmaker's familiar with and we've probably seen on screen before when it isn't.
Yeah. It makes it phenomenal thinking that it pioneered a lot of these things, right? Because this first scene we open with here, so the the woman goes upstairs, followed by Peeping Tom, um, and she starts undressing. It's the 1960s, so she has infinite layers on. She's wearing
Infinite layers. I like it when the more layers, the better. All
yeah,
right,
so
that's what I like.
she's wearing moderately less clothing at one point. She turns around and then we see like some light shine on her eyes, and then she's immediately terrified by this. She's what she sees, she's like, nah, just a big
Well, this is the thing. Obviously, we don't understand what she sees that she's going to be terrified of. I kept thinking, what could it possibly be?
halfway through the film, I was like, it's that bloody lizard, he's got it. Look at this here lizard.
Look at this! I bloody hate lizards. Jesus! Ah!
So possibly a lizard. We don't know yet. He's shown us something that's ever so spooky. And she screams as the camera basically pans in on her. Obviously, in the 1960s, humans hadn't evolved the thought to run away when something nasty's coming or try to escape. You just kind of fall back and accept your fate.
And you strike me, and again, I'm not making assumptions here, Andy. I wouldn't do that. But you strike me as somebody who perhaps partakes in sex work in the way she does, maybe in the area she does, with the clientele she does. I'm sure she's come across some right weirdos before, right? And she probably understands what she should possibly do if someone threatens her or hurts her in any way. But no, she just lies down and screams, which I'm surprised by. She looked like she can handle herself.
Yeah, you wouldn't mess with her. Looks like she'd give you a bloody bunch of fives. Certainly if you try and spook her. Um,
Bunch of fives.
But yeah, we then cut to the next morning, and the police are removing the body from the scene. And lovely bit of pun work here, Ben. Um, the we see our hero, Peeping Tom, Carl. He's filming the police taking the body out of it. And he's returning to the scene of the crime like a murderer often will.
Yeah.
And one of the policemen comes over and goes, "Here, what newspaper are you with? And if you were Peeping Tom, what newspaper would you say you worked for?"
Am I telling you exactly what he says?
Exactly what he says. It's the best one to
The
pick.
obs the Observer.
The Observer, you see,
I'm
because
just the Observer.
what do observers do? They're pretty looking at stuff all the time, aren't
They
they?
have a good peep. I would have panicked and gone, the Daily Sport. Oh no.
News of the world. It is like that
They never
rag.
take me seriously.
Get out of
That
here.
rad News of the World, that's discontinued. Oh, not in 1960.
No, in
Get out of here.
heyday.
Obviously there's a lot of people gathered around as well, and also on the newspaper the same day, it's like front page news. I'm thinking they're literally just discovered the body. How's it made it to print already and got a photo of her, and it just says girl discovered. Didn't even try and identify. They've got a photo of her. They didn't try and identify her in the paper. Just say girl found dead.
Yeah, and I mean, to the newspaper's credit, they've used one of the looks like she had some professional headshots done.
Yeah, it does. They've hunted them down. They've gone right. Got to find some good ones here. We can't stitch her. We can't stitch her up.
And Peeping Tom, aka Carl, appears to have a couple of jobs because this is the scene where he's gone into newsagent. He's gone, "Oh, bloody, you're late." He's like, "Well, okay." So he's late. So he's late for work, but he doesn't work at the newsagents. And he goes, "Oh, someone's coming in, look busy." And this is where we get the man come in and go,
So wait, so he doesn't work at the newsagents?
"Oh no, he works for the newsagent, taking photos of those women upstairs."
That's right.
But
Yeah.
you at
It
first
was confusing, wasn't it? Because I'm like, what is he? Is he a paper boy? Is he stacking the shelves?
he's like a Peter Parker character that's J. Jonah Jameson saying, "Get me pictures of it."
Get me pictures of ladies, please.
In slightly less clothes that people would wear on the street. Um, so he says, "You're late, but oh, quick, look busy because someone's coming." But don't worry, you needn't have worried because it is a man looking to buy
Chase.
some pornos. He's like,
It's
"Can
a
I have,
man
can I have the
looking to.
Telegraph, please?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah." "And the Times?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he's building up to it. He's a bit shy.
And
A
a
packet
lion
of opal,
bar.
a packet of opal fruits, please.
Opal
Yeah.
fruits. Yep.
And have you got anything? You got anything else? The guy's like,
Have
"What
you...
do you mean, sir?" Something to freshen things up a little bit. "Oh, some Tic Tacs." "Yeah, no, no. I mean something. I heard you sell some views." He goes, "What, this ViewMaster that you can click and see, like, screens of dinosaurs?" "No, something else that sells views." "Oh, it's this is a little newsagent's cafe. I don't sell sea views. You'd have to go to a hotel or something." It's just like,
And
"Look,
then he gives up. And he
do
gives
you
up.
have
He
any
goes,
pornos?"
listen, I want hardcore pornography that me, an old man in 1960, has probably never seen the likes of ever. It probably put me in a coma. Some of the stuff I want to see, something like that. All right.
Yeah.
2023 pornography would would ruin this man.
I reckon I could,
You'd, you'd have a heart attack.
yeah, I think if I had if I was having to go back to 1960s and someone said, "Right, you're going to need to defend yourself here, but you're not allowed anything traditionally considered a weapon," I reckon just a short amount of modern pornography, it'd be unstoppable. Like, it'd be like that you could go and say, "Right, I'm going to destroy your mind," and they'd be like, "Well, I don't think you could. I think I'm a very powerful minded person." You could say, "Yeah, have a look at this then." I reckon it'd
Get
be
your
like
eyes around this.
it'd be like the Ark of the Covenant. I reckon the hair would fall out and they just melt away. Yeah,
100%.
they'd be
What
destroyed.
are you? Some kind of wizard?
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't even be the fact that I'd have it on, I imagine, an iPhone. This device in your hand that can. It's like you've learned terrible truths, like you've learned like the mysteries of Cthulhu or learned God's true
Yeah.
name.
No,
It just erode them from the inside out.
they just ignore the fact that it's an iPhone. They just go, "Oh my God, what is this?
Yeah,
How
but
have you created
unfortunately,
such?"
this technology doesn't exist yet. So it's just we don't see on screen. I'd imagine it's a lady in just one or
Red.
two jumpers.
It's a lady in red.
Yeah,
It's a lady. I mean, we make jokes about last probably a bit of ankle or something. It's not. It's probably just like some sort of lingerie, outerwear, bedroom clothes.
Yeah,
Um,
bedroom attire, and that guy literally he's like having a nosebleed. He's like, he's like, oh,
I gotta
I'll
get myself home because I've got an absolute rate.
yeah, he's like, oh, I'll have this one. Oh, and I must have this one. Tell you what, how much for the old book, mate? And he's like,
I'll have the old book.
fiver. And he's like, oh,
Wow.
fiver. And he's like, I'll tell you what, £3.10, and I'll give you your telegraph.
I'd be like,
Um,
how horny can he be if even a fiver? He's like, well, I'm not so sure about that. Seems a bit of a rip off to me.
yeah, he's like, sorry. That then he gets a little bit embarrassed because like a little kid comes in and he goes, oh, can I have a Wonka bar, please? He goes, oh,
Weird that a little kid comes in, considering everything
that'll
they
be
got.
three D 6 shillings, whatever the pre-decimalization currency of the UK was, which I find absolutely impenetrable. Oh, that's
Amazing.
18 shillings and 3 bob, please.
Yeah, confusing.
Um, so he buys that. He almost forgets his newspaper. So desperate is he to get home and and bash a few out to these pornos he's just bought. But as you say, Ben, thankfully concealed in a thing of educational books. He could work for the Prime Minister and they'd say, what's in that box, in that envelope? Educational books, sir. Carry
It's
on.
just educational books. Well, let's have a look then. What, you doubting me? Doubting what I'm
Well,
saying?
this is for my education. Go and buy your own.
Yeah, exactly. You thief.
So yeah, so he's off, but then Carl gets up to work, which is taking the pictures for this newsagent to sell. The newsagent brings up a cup of tea on the house. He goes on the house, bloody hell, tight.
On the
Should be on the
house.
house. Cup of tea.
It is an old pot tea, though, isn't it? Lovely. That's what I
Yeah,
like. Lovely hot drink to
and
get the juices flowing.
he's taking the pictures of a couple of these women. One of them seems like an old hand at it. She's like, bloody hell, let's get on the tiger skin rug and get this done, shall we? We've all got places to
They've got
be.
a weird like they've set up like a scene which kind of makes it look like an alleyway
Like a
inside.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles alleyway, like a brick wall,
Yeah,
green and purples.
it's very weird. And but he takes it seriously because he's like he says something to her at one point. Look up there at the something. And she's like, what? Where?
Look at the
And he goes,
sea.
I just wanted.
Sea?
Excuse me, are you off your head? And he goes, I just wanted a lovely confused face. He obviously doesn't. The standard things don't do it for him these days, as we understand from the fact that he's out there murdering. He likes things a little bit against the grain, hence a confused face, and then obviously in a minute a physical disfigurement, a minor disfigurement, somebody's lip a little bit. He loves it. Obviously, this model is like, oh, apparently I haven't got to show my face, so she's just going, just take pictures of me bod, and he's
Yeah, and
gone.
he's gone, no,
No,
but he would take a picture of your face. I think it'd be
absolutely
brilliant.
not. I'd like to take a picture of your face, if that's
He's getting right
okay.
up in it with a camera here. And it is, we're making light, but it's effective filmmaking, right? Because the obsession that comes through it, very well acted, is Carl Boehm as Mark Lewis.
Yeah, definitely. I believe it. That's the thing. Maybe not good for him. Maybe he was typecast for being a wrong'un. But well, I don't know that obviously. But yeah, very effective, very good performance from it. I think everyone involved.
Years later, he'd be known as comedian Rob Beckett. He's got quite a bit of that face about him and hair.
Oh
Um,
my god.
yes, so this is yet another part of his job, and we reveal his other job that he has 9 to 5 when he's not taking pornographic photos for the newsagent later. But for now, he goes home and we meet another character. He's getting in, and he's taken his films. We already saw him watching them earlier on his screen room, so he goes back to his end of the day retreat at the end of the day of taking these photographs when Helen Stevens comes out of a birthday party, very
So
precocious. She's like, "All right,
she's
what's
having
your name?"
she's having a birthday party, and he looks through the window. And I know she's supposed to be 21, right? I'm like, bloody hell. Uh, Obviously, of course, 1960, everyone looks slightly older. Not because oil of Olay didn't exist, but just because people's hair and the way they dress. Uh, Everyone at the party's bloody old though. I was like, who are these people hanging around with a 21-year-old lady?
Oh, and it's this Mr. Friendzone that comes out. It's like, "Come on, Helen, you must get back to the party." All right, Friendzone Pete. Leave me alone.
Get out of here! And she goes, I'm giving a bit of cake to Carl.
Oh,
And
he comes
the
up to
man,
do it. So she tries to entice him to the party. She's, oh, you know what? We've lived here for ages. Um, but we've never said hello. So I was determined I was going to say hello to you today. Why don't you come to my 21st birthday party? And he's like, oh, sorry,
how
I've
do
got
you
to get back to
do?
work.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
he's not
and
really
then
working. He wants to watch his murder films.
he pretty much goes straight upstairs to watch the murder films that he's been filming all day. He doesn't even take his shoes off, I don't reckon. He just goes
Yeah.
upstairs and goes, right, that's it. Get the murder films on. Full blast.
Yeah, he wants his murder films on, but then Helen comes to knock at the door, brings him a honking great slice of cake.
It's a massive slice of cake.
Got a
I
candle
was
in it,
like,
still burning.
the candle's still burning. Do you not want to blow this one out? It's your birthday. No, not interested. Sorry.
She blows it out, even that said, look, now you sing happy birthday then. He blows it, and you can see that I think this is what the cool thing is about Mark Lewis as a character. It's revealed very quickly. Like there is no secret about it that he is the murderer. As soon as he's on screens, he's filming
Yeah,
this.
it's not like a who done it. We're not trying to work out who this person could
Who
potentially
Peeping
be.
Tom is. Like Mark is Peeping Tom, but he
Hmm.
he invites Helen in. He's like, "Oh, I'd like to invite you for a drink." He says, "Oh, you can invite us in for a drink." Goes in. Oh, I don't actually have anything to drink. Fuck's sake. Well, you can have.
I've
You can have.
actually got nothing to
I've
drink.
actually got nothing to drink. He says, "Well, I'll have a glass of water because when you're the host of a party, you can't have water." And he's like, he tries to go up from there though. He's like, "Get your glass of milk if you want." That'd be
Oh
lovely.
yeah,
Lovely glass of milk.
delicious. How
1960. That's hard to
exciting.
come by. There wasn't
Is it?
it wasn't European milk lakes then, Ben. It wasn't like so much surplus. If you got milk, it's a rarity.
Semi skimmed,
Yeah,
full fat.
who knows if semi? Maybe it was just a binary thing back then. Maybe it was either skimmed or not. But now you can just have a
Yeah,
little bit of a go at skimming. But
maybe just
who
milk.
knows what existed then?
Yeah,
But
who
he gets
knows?
her a
I
glass of
don't know.
milk and she goes, "Oh, I'll tell you what, little birthday present for me. Why don't you show me your films? You're a filmmaker." She's like, okay, yeah, I'll show you my films. He's like, what were you working on just now? He's like, oh, I can't show you. That's a bloody murder film. Yeah, I'll choose
I'll show
something
you
around.
something far more appropriate for you.
Yeah, he shows a video of when he
Childhood trauma, the movie.
a little boy, his dad, a psychologist, because he reveals this very quickly, was really interested in the impact of fear. And then I would argue being a good psychiatrist is not necessarily in line with being a good parent because it shows
Definitely not.
basically little baby Mark sitting there having a sleep and then getting woken up with a light being shone in his eyes all the time. And then the famous lizard of Peeping Tom getting wanged onto his bed, and like a little boy just go, "No, bloody lizard!" Ah! And this lizard's
It's a
trying to get
bloody
him.
lizard, and then crying afterwards.
Yeah, and then
And his dad
crying
filming it,
afterwards.
going, "That's right, cry it up, you little wimp.
Yeah, it keeps showing like, "Come on now, don't be silly.
Here's a here's a
Dry those
handkerchief."
eyes."
Yeah,
And then also videoing him saying goodbye to his mom on her deathbed, having a shit one at her
yeah,
funeral. Um,
yeah. He's filming all the bad stuff.
his new, and then his new, then it quickly comes in like, oh yeah, this is him marrying this new woman. 6 weeks later, this is my stepmom.
Six
Uh,
weeks later, he had her ready to go. He had her lined up. There is no way that they've just gone, well, I suppose that's the end of my relationship. And then he meets someone else. No, no,
I
no.
don't know, Ben. I don't know when it transitioned from like the things I'm used to in Victorian eras, where you go for 2 walks with someone, send them half a dozen letters, and then you're married.
2 walks.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds pretty extreme, actually. I feel like one walk could do it.
yeah. One walk around the park. Oh, I've had ever such a nice time. Should we get married? Yes.
Probably. That's probably correct, isn't it? Yes, of course. Um, yeah. So it's pretty speedy, but then we also see the moment that his dad gives him a gift of
His
camera,
first his
a,
first camera, which he
a
still
gift
has.
of camera, which he still has. Yeah, we see it on the shelf, don't we, as well?
Yeah.
Um,
And we see also in the video another disturbing bit scene, like young Mark getting his first bit of peeping Tomery, having a look at a
oh
couple
yeah,
copping off in the
I'd
park.
skip through that moment. I'd be a bit embarrassed, and I'd skip through. I go, oh, I probably shouldn't show this to someone that I've just met. But obviously his social
It's like,
skills are
oh, you naughty boy.
What's your boy just staring at two people copping off over there on the park bench? You dirty little bastard. Which he is.
I don't know, but like he is a bad boy for looking. But his dad's filming the whole thing. He's filming
Yeah.
him watching them, and also, you know, maybe I'm just silly old fashioned me, but I don't think people
Copped
randomly
off.
cop off like in the park. I certainly wouldn't think so. They did in 1960.
Yeah. I
This
was
isn't
thinking
like
that.
this isn't like teenagers. This is like people in their 30s.
Yeah. People in their 30s.
People in their
And again,
30s
obviously,
smooching like it's the end of World War II, like it's bloody VE Day, grabbing each other in the street.
but also like this develops into him liking watching people who are watching him as well, because there's obviously some bits where he pretends somebody's filming him and he's like films them back. I'm filming you right back.
He loves
So
that. He
yeah,
loves
he's
that song where it's like the boys
not
watch the
one.
girls, watch the girls, watch the boys, watch the world go by. That's him. That's Peeping Tom's music.
That's his favorite song. But I'm not one to kink shame. However, we will kink shame this man because he's a murderer. Okay.
Yeah. So he's done in many ways serves him right.
Serves him bloody right, exactly. So yeah, he's showing these videos to um wait, what's her name?
Helen.
Helen. Yeah, he's showing these videos to Helen, and she does have a sort of odd reaction to them. Like, this is very strange. I don't know why you're showing me this. I'm scared. I want to leave. But then doesn't translate into not wanting to be like around him. She's like, I still want to
Yeah.
hang out with him.
She
And
doesn't want to watch anymore. But then I kind of like this about Helen's character. She's like, I want to know what the meaning of this is. Imagine taking her around the Tate Modern. She
I want to know.
Oh, no, I didn't make it, Helen. Stop. I don't even...
What is the meaning of this? Well, the brushstrokes here, what do they represent? Do you think the painter was sitting down or standing up? Shut up, Helen! I know as much about this as you do. She'd be Googling the cast of people to see where she recognizes them from when you're watching the film. Instead of just enjoying it.
Tracy Emin is there. You know, oh, I've just done this unmade bed. Tracy! Fucking I,
Get out of bed.
Want to know
Wait,
what this is meant to mean. Yeah. Yeah. Like, yes, like Helen would not have any of it. She demands
John Lennon and Yoko Ono already did this.
Yeah. And they were in the 1960s. She would have been contemporary with them. Helen would have seen them walking down the street, tackled them. So Helen's having none of it. But as you say, then she leaves, and then he does get a bit of an explanation saying, look, my dad, he was a scienceman and he loved to know about fear. And he's just, as he explains it, you get to book about it and he goes, oh, here you go, put it back on the shelf now, the book about my dad.
There's more than one book as well. Like, he's got a load of books about
it. It's dad, bloody the scarecrow, just desperate to understand about fear.
Give it a bloody rest, will you? God, get on with your life. You got a nice wife now. I know your other wife died, but you got a nice wife, so just chill out. Relax.
Things that can cause fear. He's got a checklist. Number 1, big red letters, lizard.
Number 1, big red lizard. Number 2,
shiny light
lizard.
Yeah,
small green, shiny light.
Shiny
Komodo dragon. That's Komodo dragon is the final experiment. That is, I reckon.
Yeah,
that's the bit we didn't see.
We then go to Mark's day job. He works as a tape measure focus man at the studio. He's like
he has got so many his fingers in all the pies.
He's like he's there to do the technical stuff about the filming, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And the director is getting his air off because there's a woman who just can't fake properly.
She just can't. Wait, is this before? This is after the dance.
Yeah, this is before the dance, and then
this is before.
Right now, the star of the movie is not faint enough. Now later on she faints too much.
I want the middle ground.
The director's like, "Can you just faint, please? Can you just forget that you're beautiful and just faint if you just could, just faint, please?" And the woman's doing some, oh no, fainting. So, and she does like 100 takes.
I could faint better than that.
Of trying to faint. Meanwhile, the actor has a stand-in. Diane. Oh no, Diane is the female cast member. How terrible. The name of the actual stand-in. not properly in there. Dora?
Dora, possibly. No, Dora is the woman at the start, I believe. The
Oh
first
yeah,
woman he
Dora's the
kills.
lady at the start.
Dora.
Either way,
Vivian.
there is a okay. There
Vivian.
you go.
Yeah. So the set is closed, isn't it? So essentially, he's like
And they've come up with a
making a
secret.
film.
They've come
Making
up
a.
with a.
Is he
They've
making
come
a
up with a
film with her, or is it
secret.
like some
They've
sort
come
of
up with a secret date, right? Because the stand-in really wants some time in front of the camera, and she's, oh, I've got a date tonight, and another lad, like one of his buddy film mates, one of his workmates, who really wants to take their relationship into hanging outside it. Oh, I want to talk to you about that new film down at the Everyman. And he's like, yeah, I'd love it, but I'm busy. All right.
I'm busy, mate. I ain't interested to go to the bloody everyman. All right,
So they've gone.
it'll become a chain in 2023. All right.
So they're both having a date, and neither of them say who the date is with because they're doing some clandestine filming on the set after dark. So they can both get it. Well, to what our Vivian's character says, it's
Bit of experience.
she wants some time in front of the camera, and they're taking a risk and filming after dark, hoping they won't get caught. Mark's arranged it by putting the filming light on so no one will come and bother them, and also the rest of the cast and crew have left for the evening in like 1950s, 60s gangster cars, like the Anthill Mob, all just piled out of a car, hanging out of the top. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a surreal choice, but I kind of like it. There's basically a Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire musical, like almost a tap music number here.
Yeah. I mean, it is like that, isn't it? So she sticks her. I want to say boombox. It's not that, but she sticks on her music and she's just dancing around. He's enjoying himself, doesn't he? Watching her and
And
filming
they
her from
make it,
different
and like the,
angles.
the
And
thing is, like he's like moving the set around, and she's like dancing over the thing that he's pushing onto the chests and things like that, and then he
dangerous.
opens Chekhov's luggage. That
Chekhov's blue luggage thing. Yeah,
someone's going to end up in that trunk, aren't they? Um,
I
and
reckon so.
obviously Vivian is a song and dance woman, and she's having fun and she's laughing and she's saying, "Oh, the thing you want me to film is me being really scared. I don't understand how to do that, Mark. Can you give me some motivation?" It's like, okay, well, imagine instead of being a man that maybe you have some romantic interest in, maybe imagine this bloke wants to kill you. Oh, and maybe as a secondary thing, you can imagine his tripod for his camera as a spike at the end, and he knocks the little cork off the bottom, and there's a spike, and then
Have you put a spike on your tripod just for this moment? Oh no, you haven't, have you? You're actually a wrong un.
before she realizes it, as he's backing her towards the case, really good scene, like really more extended, and the psychology of the scene, like what Mark's plan is, but it doesn't dawn on her until quite an extended period. Like
Mm.
it's really tense watching it go through.
Yeah, it's interesting watching their eyes sort of change. Not, I don't want to sound like Mark. Um, it's interesting watching their faces kind of change from being like, "Oh yeah, this is all a bit silly, isn't it? Fun and games," to going, "Oh, I'm a bit unsure about this," to being, "He's gonna bloody kill me. He's gonna spike me in the neck."
Yeah, because that's how he does it. He gets there are so many people that get pierced with a spike in this film. It's unreal.
Right
um
in the neck, right in the neck as well,
I
which
mean,
is probably the
again,
worst place to get pierced
for
by a spike.
the film of its era, we don't see it happen. We are aware that it's happened.
Yeah.
um and then we see a little bit more after he gets home from doing a murder. um we get a scene between Helen and her mom, who it took me quite a long time into the film to realize the mom was blind.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me too. I didn't realize this. So first, her mum is chugging on the Maker's Mark like it's going out of fashion. She's like, "I'm so thirsty. I'll get you a glass of water, mum. Get me a glass of Maker's Mark." I didn't realize that she was blind until she said like, "Oh, he's at the window," and she was like, "How do you know?" I'm like, "He's played right there. You can see him." And I was like, "Oh my god, actually, is she blind?" Because it's not obvious because she's not the kind of. It's quite subtle blind acting. Some people do unsubtle blind acting where they're literally like, "Look, I bloody see a thing in here."
Yeah, but
Um,
yeah, like genuinely, maybe I missed a line earlier on, but it's never. I didn't find it explicitly until like you see when she's confronting Mark in his room later that she doesn't. But she basically says, "I don't trust anyone who walks quietly." But
yeah. And then she says,
pop up
because
and see him if you want.
sneaking around.
Pop up and see him, and she does. Helen reveals that she's a librarian and also about to be a published author. She signed that book deal about a
Oh,
magical
yeah.
camera.
What's it about?
About a magical camera.
Oh, a magical camera.
And
Interesting.
she won. And she's
Kids
Mark's like,
book, right?
why do you want to write about a magical camera? So I'll tell you the inspiration. At the time, gives a little cheeky wink, and says, "Oh, maybe we'll." I think it's a bit later here that she later gets Mark to take her out for dinner and shows that there is some getting through to him because she convinces him in a date that comes later not to take his camera, and it kind of separates him from his compulsions and his
Yeah.
like his
Because
problems.
when she tells him not to take the camera, they're walking. He sees someone copping off again in the street, and he stops, and he like instinctively reaches for his camera,
Yeah.
but like, just well, I've got to film this, mate. I've got to film this. Got to have a look. Got to have a look at this. Oh, I can't. I ain't got a bloody camera. Fuck. If you went back in time and showed him an iPhone, he'd be absolutely loving it.
Yeah, be like, oh, but yeah, I can just pretend I'm texting.
I can just
Um,
pretend I'm texting on the tube.
yeah, bloody Mark. Um, yeah, and we'll come to the confrontation, his promise that he makes, but he's obviously having some feelings with Helen. He feels separate to her, to everyone else, but he is compelled the next day at the studio, almost like he wants to get caught here, because the next day at the studio that's filming, um, the trunk that has the murder victim in it, Vivian, is going to be opened in the course of a scene.
Someone
Uh,
lifts it up. I'll just put the trunk here. So I bloody hell, this weighs a ton.
and they're like, oh, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to have to have a look at a white trunk. And this shop assistant, bloody hell, worked in the service industry. You've been there. And you're like, oh, have a look in the white trunk, please. Yeah, fine. Here you go. Oh, have you got any red luggage? He goes, yeah, yeah, sure. Here you go. She goes, have you got any blue luggage? And the enthusiasm of the retail assistant is
The luggage is
waving.
literally all there, right? There's all piled up there. Can you not turn your head and look to see what color of luggage we've got?
Could I have some
Ignorant.
blue luggage? He goes, of course, madam. And then the
Yes,
actor
no
does some great
problem.
heavy acting. He's like, oh, this one's really heavy. Yanks it out, and then
So weighs a bloody ton.
we open it, and again, we don't see, so it's from behind the camera's perspective. The luggage is opened up like a Legend of Zelda treasure chest, but instead of that beautiful fanfare, the actress
The
having
smell
seen
of death.
a brutally murdered woman collapses, and the director's like, for fuck's sake, the one time I didn't want you to faint. No, you bloody. I think, oh no, now I feel like the asshole. Sorry, there is a dead woman in there. Um, get the
I
police
felt like
out.
the asshole. Yeah, get a
Uh,
police out 'cause there's a dead body. Did they make the connection between this and like the other person who was killed? They don't. Do
they
they think it's like
they do because the police come, and unless it's just coincidental, because then we see a scene between two policemen who are saying, "Oh, coming to get
yeah,
this, coming to get. Oh, I don't believe we're going to visit like this big film studio. Maybe they'll be discovered as a star." And then the detective is like saying, "Well, be a bit of a break actually, because sick of this murder that I've not been able to solve. No clues."
yeah, zero bloody clues. And then they start questioning everybody, don't they? Including Mark, who doesn't seem to particularly bother, does he? It's not like he's
He's
super worried.
pretty casual
He
about it.
loves
He's
the
like, "Yeah,
game, loves the thrill of it.
do you want to look at my camera actually?" You never find anything on there.
Do you want to have a look at my camera?
Yeah, have
I
a
went
look
for
at
you won't
that.
find anything on there, and he realized he hadn't deleted it. Oh shit! Give it
Can't,
back.
I bet you can't really watch it back on those things. So there wasn't a little screen. You could
That's
watch it
true.
back on.
That's
But yeah,
true.
mess about with it if you like. Um, so he lets the police go, and like you think they're onto them, and it's like, "Oi, you want to watch out?" And he's like, "Oh, what? Sorry." He goes, "Make me bloody famous, will you? Putting me on camera." And he's like, "Oh, don't
That's
worry
how it
about it."
works.
But
That's how it works.
again, his compulsion to see the events of the murder, he creeps up into the rafters of the studio to
Yeah.
um to
Well,
film
he gets his
the
camera
body.
out to film the exact moment that the woman sort of discovers the dead body, because he wants that to see the moment of like her shock and fear. Eblay loves fear when no lizards are involved.
Yeah. Don't like it when the shoes on the other foot. Didn't like being spooked with the lizard, but he likes seeing other people scared. And he wants to catch this footage of them talking about the body and the police looking at it. But he gets almost rumbled by pencils.
Wait, pencils? What? Wait, the way you said it then was like pencils was a nickname for someone.
No, pencils, the items, or just random stationery. To be fair, by modern standards, there's too many pencils in his shirt pocket there.
Yeah, too many pencils indeed.
And while he's
Too many
leaning
pencils
over the
spoil the
rafters
party.
to try and film the thing, basically, half a partner's stationery shop falls out of his pocket and dings onto the floor.
What an
Unfortunately,
idiot.
because no one can take their job seriously, it was like, oh, hang on, the detective shushes everybody when the pencils all fall down out the rafters. Then some mug hams it up and goes, I thought I heard a wabbit. No, I thought I saw a
Yeah,
pussycat.
which takes all attention out of the bloody scene. I go, what are you bloody playing? I thought a pretty. Are you all right, mate? Do you stay at home watching cartoons all day long? You moron.
No
Do
wonder
you,
he hadn't solved this murder.
you idiot. Yeah.
Can you imagine if that happened in any type of stealth situation? Be like, you know, you hear a noise, you guard in like the nuclear bunker or something like that. Oh,
I
I
thought I
thought I
thought.
saw it. Yeah, that's a good one. Moving on.
I've had an absolute guts full working with you every single day. I'm sick of it. Find someone else.
That bite, he probably does Porky Pig at the end of each shift. That's all.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, Dave. You twat.
He must, maybe he's got like a Looney Tunes type of name. He's Detective Foghorn Leghorn. So they're they're solving it. He gets away with it again, but because it is in the newspaper, Helen's mom is a little bit suspicious. What studio does he work at again? Not the murder
Yeah,
one.
she's very suspicious of him.
She's very astute. She knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So Helen goes out for dinner with him. That's the bit where you see where he sees that family. She convinces him not to take the camera. But they have a lovely
Where did
evening.
they go? What did they have for dinner? Because I swear when they're going for dinner, he went, I know a great place that does a brilliant Christmas dinner.
I don't
What is it, Christmas dinner? Stuffing, pigs in blankets, so you don't have to pay extra for.
It's 1960. I imagine it's London.
Toby Carver.
1960. I imagine jellied eels, eels and mash,
Jellied eels, mash. What's it
cockles
called?
and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
What's the gravy stuff called? It's got a weird name.
Gravy stuff, dripping.
Bread and dripping. Bread and dripping. Lard an inch thick on a slice of bread. Back in my day, we used to eat this. Well, exactly. That's why you did. That's why you died at 48. You know.
That's why you look 60 when you're 32.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Eccles cakes they have, spotted dick, all the foods.
Pie, mash, liquor. It's called liquor. That's what they call it. Like the gravy stuff. I say gravy, but I think it's just like it's green, isn't it? It's green. Parsley liquor.
Lovely green parsley liquor. Yum, yum, yum.
I'll tell you what this pie of mash is crying out for. A load of liquor. What? Excuse me?
1960s London, I imagine barely any curry houses by that time. There wasn't like, they didn't have all the choice we had today. You couldn't nip down Waggers. No.
No. Liquor's made from fish stock, flour, and parsley. I'm sure you wanted to know that. But yeah, that's what they're having.
Maybe we'll have an authentic London experience, and that's what we'll go for dinner while we're at Fright Fest, Ben. We'll go for a
Sounds amazing.
pie, mash, eels, and liquor.
I'm definitely up for that.
Eel pie. So they have a lovely time. They go.
They have a kiss, I think, afterwards, and they have a brief
kiss.
No,
he's really awkward, but she leans in and gives him a little peck. But he promises that he's never going to photograph her. She goes, I'll never photograph you. It's not about that.
I'll never photograph you. Yeah, he says that.
But she wants him to get the photographs for her book because the publishers, interfering as always, are saying, oh, love some illustrations for this book. He goes, no, I want photographs. He agrees with her that anything is possible in photography. So he commits to get them for her. And then when he gets home, her mom is in his room and she sensed that he's a wrong un. And they obviously are some commonalities between because her walking stick also has a spike on it.
I'm confused by this. Is this a common thing? Like, what is it like? Okay, you might be blind, right? But you'll never ever know when you need to immediately defend yourself against some unseen foe. So spike on the end, or maybe it's like picking stuff up. Like if you drop something, picking it up, as long as it's spikeable.
Yeah, so she can do some litter picking. So,
She could do. She could do
but
as
she
much litter picking as
but
she
she
wants.
holds him at bay with it when he approaches some point. She's very defensive and she like
So
gets him at knife point like Zorro.
I was confused by this. So she does say that she like stands in his room and watches him at night. But the way she's saying it is she's trying to say because she's blind and she's downstairs, she can kind of like picture herself in the room with him while
Yeah,
he's like watching
that's
his films. Is that right?
that's what I took. Not that she's like Doctor Strange. She can astral project into his room.
Yeah.
But she's physically gone up there this time instead of just imagining, and she knows this darkness inside him. And again, he reassures her, I'll never um I'll never photograph Helen. I actually think she's a bit of all right. Um,
Yeah.
and he puts the latest snuff film on because she goes, "Oh," he says, "What film you put on now?"
The
And he goes,
latest one.
"And you can lie." And he goes, "Oh, but I won't," because she knows she's onto him basically. The
Tell me what I'm watching. She even like sort of like tries to feel it in a way, which is quite odd, but she's like sort of like, tell me what I'm watching.
Yeah.
And
But
then
Mark's
does he
livid because he sees he plays Vivian's murder, but
didn't come out
is
well?
deeply disturbed that the lighting's not right or he cuts too soon.
Yeah, something like that. I think like he's fucked it off. So you can't do two takes when you kill someone, can you?
No, that's the problem with snuff films. It's really one shot, one opportunity.
Exactly. Um, so yeah, he's obviously super disappointed by that. Fuming, slams his fists on the wall. How does he get rid of her in the end?
It just promises that I won't photograph your daughter, all right? Like, and she's, I'll just see that you don't. And he helps her back downstairs. Like, it's really weird. And again, we're going through it quickly, and we're just looking at observations here. But serious bit of film analysis for a moment. The power dynamic in this scene, how it changes that who is in control of the situation, who is afraid of who, and which really,
Yeah.
really skillfully done. It weaves in and out of it here.
Hmm.
Really, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's incredibly well made. So the next sequence is there's a psychiatrist man who's called to the set to console Diane, obviously after she's seen a body in a trunk because I think they try and do a scene, don't they?
Date
And
another time, and unfortunately, they've tried to schedule the scene. So instead of looking for luggage, she wants different hats of different colors. But when she asks for the blue hat, she
oh
loses
yeah,
mind and runs
oh
out. The
there might be a bot.
psychiatrist goes, "You probably need to give her a day or two off, not half an hour."
Yeah, does say that, and it also says, I hope there's not a dead body in that blue hat. I'm absolutely terrified. There's not. Look, have a
Don't
look.
turn it upside
No,
down. What if it falls out?
don't trust you. Um, so yeah, but Mark takes this opportunity to talk to um this this psychiatrist who's familiar with his father's work, and then again is like talking about being a voyeur, well, not a peeping tom as such, and asking the psychiatrist about various things, um, which is kind of weird. But then the psychiatrist grasses him up.
Yeah. So,
I was chatting to that peeping tom, peeping Mark, and he was sort of saying, "Do you reckon anyone who's a voyeur can be cured?" Because that's the thing. Like, even though he does these things, clearly he yearns for some sort of a normal life,
yeah.
and maybe with Helen as well.
Um, yeah. So, kind of to get it out of his system, he rushes to see the same lady, Millie, that he took photos of before. And again, like there's a tragedy to her character as well. She talks about more bruises and her boyfriend, and she's, you know,
Oh yeah,
cancelled another date to come and take some photographs with him. And she does lie naked on the bed and say, "Oh, should it be dangerous to be in a room with you alone? Maybe it'd be more interesting if it was," because she doesn't really see him as a threat. She sees him as this kind of
yeah,
meek, mild photographer character. It is revealed later, I think, when the police are doing their stuff, that he does kill her at this point, but we don't really see it. He just kind of looks on at
I
her,
think
right?
because he leaves the newsagents, locks the door, puts the key through the letterbox, um, and the police are kind of like monitoring him. And I
The
think it is
police
revealed a little bit
the
later that he
police have
killed
been following him, and he sees just before he shuts the curtain. So at this point, like he's not
Meek
really.
Mild Mark murdered Millie.
That's what the News of the World would say, or the Observer. Um,
Well, whatever paper that we saw at the start would just say, "Girl dead."
Girl dead. Um,
Girl? Question mark dead.
dead! Exclamation mark. Um, so he knows they're onto his script, but he kind of has an end game, and he doesn't really seem to be too concerned about being caught at this point because he sees them outside the news agents, but pulls the blinds down while
Mm-hmm.
he's doing this and kind of fulfilling this need to try and get the images that he really wants to satisfy his compulsion and to, I guess, to a degree, understand his like fulfill his need to kill people at this point as well. Helen has nipped around his house and is curious about his films, goes and has a watch of them, and he goes, "I've it's a bloody murder film, in it."
It's a
She's
bloody murder film. I knew it. She's
she's
like,
really
"Tell me this
upset.
isn't real. It's just a movie, isn't it, Mark? Tell me it's not real, not a real life murder. Someone's getting spiked in the neck."
Someone's getting spanked, and it's the woman that was her headshot was on the front of this newspaper, so it's definitely her. Mark promises that he gets Helen to look, and again, really, really cool bit of psychology, and not just making the killer like just a slathering lunatic, but having some complexity about them and some compassion, and not being entirely evil. It's not something that we see wholeheartedly, even in more modern films,
No.
where you have an expectation of more nuance to it. He says basically, don't look away. If I'm not seeing you, if I don't see you afraid, then I won't hurt you. Um, and
Yeah.
he points the
Don't
spike
even
to her
pretend to
neck.
be afraid. So she just goes, "I'm all right, honest, I'm fine." Ah!
And he
Yeah.
explains his compulsion, and we finally see when we saw that light shining on people and they got afraid, what it is. It's a big distorted mirror. So people
Yeah.
saw the look in their own face as a big spike was coming towards them. And you know what? It wasn't what I expected. Really good, though. Really good metaphorically, really good. The face of your own death would be horrid.
Yeah. A big distorted mirror, like in the House of Mirrors, seeing your face all wonky and weird, but also terrified as a spike comes towards your neck. I'll just
Yeah.
go, I ain't looking at it. I ain't looking at it. I'll turn around. Not so it
Yeah.
goes up my ass, but that's not what I meant.
I guess it's more likely that you'd survive if you got spiked in the bum rather than the neck.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I don't reckon it does it for him, Mark. I don't
So
reckon
he
he's
points
interested
the
in that.
knife towards her, but he refuses to kill her because of his promise to her mom and because he really cares for Helen. And
Yeah,
Helen
this
cares for
I
him as
kind of
well. She's like, "You've got to, the police come," and she
gotta give
says,
yourself up.
"No," she says, "You've got to go. You got to go, Mark."
Oh, does she? I thought you said you gotta give yourself up. Or did she say you
Oh,
gotta go?
she says
Okay,
you got to go.
okay.
Maybe she says, "Give yourself up." Then she changes it. She says, "You've got to go. You've got to go, Mark." But he also reveals that his this earlier on in the film he reveals that he's not a tenant and that he owns the house. It's his dad's house which he's inherited, and he rents it to other people. But
Bloody
poses
landlords.
yeah, poses as
London
tenant of
landlords, they're all the same. They're all peeping toms with a spike on the tripod.
allegedly. But yeah, the he also revealed that the entire house was wired for sound, so he's been able to hear everything that's going on
He's not just a peeping tom, he's a listening tom as well.
and listening. James,
A listening Leonard.
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
he's been doing it all. So he obviously any prob he sort of hears the mum saying, well, these memories kind of replayed. He hears the mum sort of saying, "Oh, well, he's definitely a creepy creep. He's always walking quietly. He's a creep. So be careful of him." Um, so yeah, but then he's got a plan. There's a plan that he's obviously had planned for a while because he's got so many cameras set up for this final moment, hasn't he?
yeah, and he plays as the police come up there. He plays all of the videos of all of his murders. He's got them all queued up to run on
Mm.
like a big display. We don't see all this, but we can hear all the noises and the things playing. And there's it goes from being quite a quiet and thoughtful and deliberate film to being this injection of chaos at the end, where we get all this noise and the films of all the murders are playing. And then
Yeah.
he set himself up a lovely bit of rigging whereby his spiked camera can be trained, can be attached to the wall, the spike facing out, the image facing himself, and then he walks towards it. This is final end game that he's going to spike his own neck with the spike and end his own
Well, he's going
life
to run
and
full
capture that
pelt
moment.
towards it, but he runs it and stops right at the last minute, doesn't he? Feeling
And
like he
then,
can't do it, and he says he's scared. He says to Helen, "I'm scared."
but he does do it. He spikes himself. Helen collapses on him and cries, and the police, as they enter the room, he is dead. She is helped up, and we just end on that moment. I think another feature of films like this as well, like modern
They just
filmmaking, we tend
yeah.
to have a conclusion, whereas it's just this has happened. The
The
fallout is going
conclusion
to
in this,
happen,
if this was a modern film, the conclusion would be Helen. She's now the landlady, and all the rooms are full of lovely things and cakes, and her mother is blind, but she's doing a tap dance. I don't know.
yeah. I think a
But
modern film, you'd get like a 6 months later, Helen would be having coffee in like an Italian bistro, and her publisher would
you
have
know,
sent her first copies of her book, and she
yeah.
just have a little moment to
But
think about
as
that,
she's but as she's leaving, sees two people copping off, and at the last moment she stops and
and as a
turns
look
and
back.
watches. She has a little watch back, and then takes her camera out. Dirty
Yeah,
bitch.
and then her name is now Peeping. What's the female equivalent of Tom?
Um, Trudy.
Tammy.
Tammy.
Peeping Tammy.
Peeping Ellen. And that is it. That is Peeping Tom. It ends on that final moment. So have you got any name game for this, or did you want to
I've
talk
got
about any?
I've got just a couple for you, Ben.
You
Have
got
you
a
got any
couple for
trivia
me.
to begin with?
You could start with the name game. I haven't got any trivia at the moment.
Okay, in that case, let me tell you then. So the first one, let's have you got the synopsis of this one, and I'll work it in.
The synopsis of this film is a serial killer murders women using a portable film camera to record their dying expressions of terror.
Okay, a serial killer um falls on hard times. He's not a serial killer. Don't want to get myself sued, but in 1960s London, um, a former football manager and pundit has a good old cry after being cancelled for horrible racist comments.
Peeping Weeping Ron. That's really weird that you should bring that up because I literally was watching an interview about that, what, like 2 days ago.
Weeping Ron.
And I don't know if I'd even would have remembered it unless that's strange. Yeah, Ron cancelled. He was like, sorry to delve into this. He was like, oh, allegedly what I said. It's like we've literally got a recording of you saying it. And he's gone, well, allegedly I've said a racist thing. He was on his own as well. He wasn't talking to anyone. He was on his own, like talking under his breath.
On his own being a racist. Soz Ron. So yeah, he's having a weep about it in this film. Have you got any? Do you want me to
Weeping Ron.
roll on for another one for you?
Okay. This is a man serial killer who is doing all the murders, uh, the expressions of terror, but he wants them to be silent when they're doing it. Be silent, and he tells them to a little version of telling someone to shut up.
Um, Shushing.
Keeping.
Oh, keeping stum.
Yeah, that's right. Keeping stom. Why do you just
Oh,
keep stom about it, for God's sake?
very good. I will say to you then, a 1960s serial killer finds himself ever frustrated and frustrating the police when he goes around and tampers with their cars. So if you press the horn, nothing happens.
Beeping.
It's not there anymore, is it?
Beeping. Gone.
Beeping gone. Very good.
Beeping. Gone.
Um,
Um. So I hope I've got this right. I feel like I've forgotten it now. A serial killer murders people using a portable film camera to record their dying expressions of fear. Except, he's Australian in this one. Except when he meets an English person and he just wants to say hello to them. How would an Australian person
Does it be greeting Pom?
greeting Pom? Correct.
All right, Poms. Right, that's that. Here's another one for you though, Ben. A serial killer that kills people with a portable camera and captures their final expressions of fear manages to cleverly evade arrest by the police by always pretending to have a sleep whenever they come round to arrest him.
Sleeping. What was the first bit?
He's a serial killer, but the police can never arrest him because they always think he's having a kip. He's not really, though. He's
Sleeping Tom.
faking it. He's faking it, though.
Sleep. Oh, sleeping. Pretend sleep.
Yes, it is sleeping.
Sleeping.
But what type of sleeping is it? What trick is he pulling on the police? Oh, we can't arrest him while he's asleep. Give him a minute.
Sleeping. No, I don't know.
It's a sleeping con. That's what that is.
Ah, for God's sake. I hate it. I hate it when my brain won't do words. Okay, I got one more for you.
Mhm.
A serial killer murders women while using a portable film camera to record their dying expressions of terror. But before the police can apprehend him, I don't know why. I don't know why, but the host of Cowboy Builders, caught red-handed, maximum security, fake Britain, comes for him. But as Mark's escaping, he manages to jump over the host
Oh,
to get away.
He's not a very tall man, is he? Leaping Dom.
He's leaping over Dom Littlewood. Get away, leaping Dom Littlewood.
It's a postcode lottery as to
1.71
whether
meters.
how
When
tall.
you Google Dom Littlewood, it says he's 58 and he's 1.71 meters. In case you worried.
Leaping Dom.
That's it. Have you got any?
I've got one more for you. While a serial killer stalks London streets, killing people with a portable camera with a spike on it, and filming their dying memories, elsewhere, having slagged off the beach that makes you get old by M. Night Shyamalan calling it shite on a well-publicized video, a Doctor Who and stage actor has to sneak into future screenings of M. Night Shyamalan's films to avoid more public ire.
Sneaking. It's John, right? John Barrowman.
Yeah, sneaking or
Sneaking
creeping
John.
John, is I'd take.
Get out of here, John Barrowman, you knobhead. Also, I realized I didn't put this two and two together. He is also in like one of those Megalodon films, like Megalodon 3.
Yeah, he's like Mega
and he
Shark
is
3, the one that talks about.
and he's and do you remember what? Yeah, he says to the main character, "Hey, I'm gonna take you home and eat your pussy." He was happy to deliver that line, which he ad-libbed. Yeah, which he said he's got a line he wants to put in here. He's happy to think that's great, but when he goes and watches M. Night Shyamalan's Old, he goes, "This is one step too far for me and shit films."
A beach that makes you get old? No.
No.
Not for him.
In terms of trivia, it is director Michael Powell in the video of Mark when he's a kid, and it's his actual son. And apparently, critics of the film said they're offended by it because it borders on abuse, lizard on the lap and stuff like that.
Unless he likes the lizard, he's acting.
Powell's son said he finds these criticisms laughable. It's also one of Martin Scorsese's favorite films. He lists it as in terms of his favorite films. And apparently the movie also destroyed the career of Michael Powell, the director.
It's a shame.
Okay.
Michael Powell, the director, made a very good film.
Yeah, exactly. There we go then. That is Peeping Tom. We got to rate the movie A to F. Rate good, rate bad. Minuses and pluses are acceptable. I think, sorry to jump in there, I think I'd go as far as like a B plus. I don't think I'd go into the A territory just because I think it's a very well made film. It's like as the first time seeing it, I was gripped throughout, and I can see how it's obviously inspired decades of other movies as well, and things that like are present in this film, which are still present in films 60 years later. So yeah, I think a B plus. I think the performances are great. And yeah, it feels like one of those films that hasn't the value of it hasn't gone down in time. It feels like it's become more of a classic, and especially considering it came out the same year as Psycho, perhaps it isn't discussed as much in horror circles as it should be, but solid. Enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
I'm going to join you on a B plus. I think, Ben. I think it's very, very interesting. The same. My B plus is probably just based on I haven't got such a history with this film. This was my first watch as well, but um, really well made, like really gripping storytelling. Um, it doesn't have the gratuity, I guess, that we used to as a modern film audience, but really compelling. And I enjoyed the complexity of the character as well. So yeah, really solid. I'd recommend this to anyone who is interested in your film history and the sort of the opening shots in like what is a one of our favorite subgenres of horror now. Yeah, well worth watching. Out of B plus from me.
Amazing. Wonderful. Glad we covered this one. And great suggestion, Andy. Yeah, so thanks everybody for listening. Obviously, next week's episode will be the big Fright Fest 2023 extravaganza, but we will be dropping bonus episodes between now and then with like some interviews and some other things that we'll be doing. So please check in on that. And yeah, and if you are attending, of course, find me and Andy and Luke Condor with a K and come and say hello if you listen to the show, if you're a fan, or, come and get involved and join us talking about some
Yeah,
films as well. We're happy to chat to people.
bring along your suggestions of what your horror hangout movie is. That's what I'm going to be asking you if I see you. I'm going to get that camera in your face and I'm going to say, tell us, your friends are
You
coming
get
round. You're choosing a horror movie. You've got one shot, one opportunity. What are you picking? Come
you're
bring us
getting
that.
the
Come
camera in
bring us
their
that answer.
face, Peeping Tom style.
Yeah, I'll be
Uh,
getting it out of my coat.
but if you're copping off at the event, don't worry, we won't be watching. We're looking the other way.
Yeah, we
So
don't
thanks
care
very much.
about that. You live your own life.
Do what you want. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to our current patrons: John Crinnan, Ben Scape, Stephen Christopher, Toby Miller, Scott Rigby, Lane Spencer, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, Troy Burst, Rosalind Harnias, and Pazuzu. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Horror Hangout Podcast. If you search that, you'll find us. Keep up to speed with all of our social channels over the Fright Fest weekend because we will be posting regularly. Obviously, not spoiling films, but we'll be talking about films that we've seen and enjoyed and talking to filmmakers about their movies as well. So, yeah, see you then. See you next week.
Bye for now, everybody. We get ourselves
And
packed then, get on the road.
get ourselves packed. How many pairs of pants do you reckon I need? At
I
least
mean, you're watching
two.
horror movies, bring spares.
Okay, I'll pack 3. Okay, see you later.
See you later, bye.
Bye.